This is the Straight Up Breakdown Podcast with Greg Smith and Jay Foreman.
Exclusively on the Hurrdat Media Network.
Tell it to me straight up.
Hello, and welcome into the Straight Up Breakdown Podcast, proudly part of the Hail Varsity Network. I am Greg Smith. This is the first time in a while that the Mondays have gotten the better of me, friend.
This is Jay Foreman. It's not the Mondays, but the Sundays definitely got the best of me. So, they got me yesterday and it's getting you today. I hope I didn't pass any bad mojo on to you.
No, I'm just hoping that Sasha isn't next and we keep this bad juju away from her. Because this is, I don't know. I really want to blame with daylight saving time or us springing ahead, all of that. But I woke up fine, and it's just been downhill ever since then. You had those days sometimes where you're just fighting it all day, and today is definitely one of those days for me.
Well, the spring forward or whatever got me. I was behind all day and it never recovered. I'd like to, think that I have a little bit of a bounce back to me, but definitely was taking some body blows yesterday. So started yesterday on the wrong foot late and then became even later and then just cashed it on in. I just took it on the chin and said, you know what, today wasn't my day. So
sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes when you playing golf and you just have a bad round and you're like, man, I can dwell on this, or we just got to flush it and just come back the next time and just forget all about it. Sometimes it's like that with every day.
It's like the classic line that coaches say, you know what, we're just going to burn this tape and
right.
And just start over. And so that's exactly what happened. Actually, it happened to your boy, or they were thinking about that after my Georgetown Hoyas, gave Creighton a little bit of Hoya paranoia. I'm sure McDermott wanted to, he wanted to burn that tape because Creighton got, they got ran out the gym. So it's one of those things that just wasn't your day, or wasn't my day yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're going to launch in here. Now, each week we have a couple of segments that are kind of mainstays of the show. The first one each and every week is one of our favorites called Coach Speak, where we go over something that a coach, player, or talking head said, and then we give you the straight up breakdown of what they said. Boy, this week comes courtesy of Nebraska Athletic Director Bill Moose.
Coach Speak to Real Talk.
Boy, it feels like the internet, or Husker internet, at least the corner of Husker internet and college football internet, was kind of set ablaze after the Brett McMurphy tweet or report that Nebraska was trying to get out of playing Oklahoma on September 18th. And then after 6 hours, Bill Moose released this statement saying, quote, "The University of Nebraska is looking forward to playing Oklahoma and Norman on September 18th. Due to the economic devastation caused by the COVID-19 pandemic to Husker athletics and the local community, our administration did explore the possibility of adding an 8th home game this fall. That option would have helped us mitigate cost-cutting measures and provide a much-needed boost to our local economy. Ultimately, the decision was made to move forward with our game at Oklahoma in 2021. We have the utmost respect for the University of Oklahoma and this storied rivalry, and I know that our fans have been excited for this series for a long time. Go Big Red." So, Jay, you got to tell me, what did he really mean?
I mean, I think that's about as true from his perspective. That's probably what they were doing. They were probably looking at possibilities and, looked at other options for a game to get, another home game. It's just the optics were bad, and I think that, the way COVID had affected everybody, I think you probably won't get a lot of leeway that way. But I think ultimately, their thinking was with the right frame of mind. They probably just didn't work out right because it's the 50th anniversary of the was a game of the century or whatever it was called. Yep. And I think the bigger problem is this, and Brett McMurphy has made his hay kind of like, I call him bottom feeding reporting. He was really loved the Ohio State thing, and he's been he's the one that if you're looking for some smut information, he's the guy, right? Ultimately, I think even back when Nebraska was looking to play games when the Big Ten was shut down, you got to find who the leak is, right? There's got to be somebody that's in those meetings that's kind of, leaking it out, whether it's Oklahoma or whatever. I think it's one of those things that you have to deal with that. Now, it's totally different than what you're asking me, but I think it's a bigger problem because of, the type of damage it can do, especially with the optics of it. And
what I think though that you actually got to go somewhere that I actually was going to go though, which is I do think no matter what you believe about the situation, and we're kind of in this like kind of he said situation where I think that you're always going to have a segment of people that believe that Nebraska was trying to duck Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You're always going to have a segment of people that believe exactly what Bill Moose said. And then there's some people that are going to be in between, right? So I think that it's all muddied up. But where you were going and where I definitely agree is that the way that it came out, I think influenced a lot of the reaction. I think that is part of it. I think that if Nebraska had been the one to release the information and had said, hey, we tried to explore it, essentially exactly what they said in the release on Friday afternoon, it looks at maybe there would still be people that were really questioning, and there would have been people that were still questioning it, but it doesn't provide that same level of kind of anger and kind of mocking that you saw on the front end. I think if Nebraska gets out ahead of it, and if they're the ones to put it out, like it was just, to me, the whole thing was just weird. And when you talk about kind of coming from like, you got to kind of find the leaks, like who was leaking this out. Like obviously it wasn't Nebraska, right? Like obviously it's not their side. They don't stay in the game from that. Now, it could have been Oklahoma because they were trying to keep this game. But remember, there were schools that had to have been contacted to be able to fill that game. So it could have been them too, right? Like, because they were trying to put pressure the other way because they wanted to then maybe get that game, no matter who. If it was a MAC school, Old Dominion, whoever it was going to be, they had reason to do that too. I just think the whole, like, this was another lesson for Nebraska in PR, like in just the value of proper messaging and getting things out there before you even get to kind of the ramifications of the whole ducking accusation and all of that.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely something that's plagued Nebraska, for quite some time. You know what I mean? And this is even before Scott and Bill Moose were even a big thought. I think it's something that's really, even if you think of even back with the Bo Pelini tape and stuff like that, I think there's just some, and this is the thing. And this is, look, I'm not making excuses for anybody, and I definitely don't make excuses for Nebraska's record. But when you hear people say, and you can talk about Coach Speak, that there's some things that you're fighting that are outside of what goes on Saturdays. These are the type of things. You get what I'm saying? And you don't hear about leaks that much. Say, like, I always reference Alabama because they are the best. Well, they're the best team, the best run kind of football program, I think, out there, right? Mm-hmm. You don't really see a lot of that. You don't really hear, and maybe just because we aren't down there, maybe you don't hear, but I just don't think you deal with a lot of that type of stuff. So I think that, it's part of, being, look, what people don't really understand, like there's two different types of things. You got to look at it like from a financial, but then also you look at it from a playability standpoint and stuff like that. So I think it's just one of those things that however you want to read an article, or read something, or you hear something, it's just however you're going to take it. So if you are in favor of Bill Moose and Scott Frost, you're going to like, okay, I understand what you're saying. If you're not, and you're looking for a reason to, hate them or whatever, then you're also, then in the big landscape, which is national, if you have a problem with Nebraska ever since they actually wanted to play college football before everybody else, I guess, decided they wanted to play football in the Big Ten, then you're going to be like, oh, well, look in Nebraska again, right? And so it's just one of those things that's, they always say that it's better to be the first to tell your story versus the last, because
you don't want somebody else being controlling the story.
Right. Yeah. It's the first impression is the last impression. So it's a learned lesson, and it's something that kind of at least it got put to bed. At least that the game is going to go on and they want to play. So ultimately, in a week or so you won't hear from him. But I guess that lit the I didn't even know about it, to be honest with you, until very late, because I didn't really, it doesn't cross my mind. So I think that it's just one of those things that obviously sent people into a frenzy for about like you said, 6 or 7 hours, and then they calmed down and didn't have anything else to talk about for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, and it's crazy too, because there are a couple points in this though, like we were saying, that are kind of logical. Like I can go with it. Like I can, and I don't even mean kind of like the whole like Nebraska lost money because of the pandemic over the last year is 100% true. Like that's not in dispute. So yes, it would make sense that they would want an additional home game. I just think the optics of wanting that additional home game at the expense of renewing this rivalry is a bad look. But you can kind of understand that from business perspective. But then there's also, because I'm always thinking of the recruiting angle, you also have to understand that Nebraska only has one home game before October. I think that's the Buffalo game, and let's say that game gets moved to 11 a.m. You might have a tough time getting visitors in, because I'm just going to assume that visits are able to be happening by then. So there's that too, knowing that a lot of guys sign in December and you need to get kids back on campus because they haven't been here in a year. Like, I can understand that. But it just becomes, it's just a bad optics situation for Nebraska. And it just goes a little bit in the face of what they're trying to build. But at the same time, with the way that it came out, it almost makes it to where it feels like, given some of the talk that's been around Nebraska, whether it's this, the different complaints about the schedule last year, no matter if that came from fans, from Moose, whoever, that stuff about opening with Ohio State, a lot of that stuff feels like the players then end up getting lumped into that as if they're the ones kind of driving this, and they are not. And that's unfortunate too, because they get kind of caught up in this as well in the end. And I think that's really, to me, one of the most unfortunate things in the whole situation is that they get caught up in this where they had nothing to do with any of this.
Yeah, and that's just the way that college sports is. Because, like I say, college football is professional football, in my opinion. What we call professional football is entertainment. So you get caught up into a lot of things that are out of your control. And it's unfortunate because kids got to deal with things and probably maybe answer questions that they don't even have the answers to and will never have the answers to. And then they get lumped into it from, what they perceive you as a player, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of times these decisions are even made and people don't even know the reasons why. And a lot of times you shouldn't know. But in this day and age, everybody has an opinion. Everybody has everybody's an expert, even when they're, proven wrong or whatever. And then next thing you know, they have nothing to say. So it's just, one of those things. Unfortunate, the timing isn't good. And so I think at the end of the day, when you don't have, I call it win equity, when you have enough wins that you can make these type of mistakes, it becomes very hard when you make them, and it might have been an honest mistake. So it's just one of those things that they got to learn from and move on for, and then they got to see, what they can do, moving forward. As far as, like you said, getting another home game or trying to, shake the schedule up a little bit, because a lot's on the line. Recruiting is so big now that in a lot of ways it's more important as important as wins and losses. People get so hyped up on recruiting and they forget, you actually got to play a game. So. You got to, check every box and dot every I and cross every T.
Yeah. And it's crazy because it's just tough. It's a really tough situation. And like I said, it could have been even if it was not a mistake, I think that win equity, like you said, does not fall in Nebraska's current regime's favor. And it's just because it would be different. I'm just kind of think of let's say if Nebraska had been basically Ohio State for the last 3 years, I do think that this goes differently. I do. And honestly, I'm pretty sure about that, because if you think about the reaction to Nebraska wanting to play football this past fall versus when Ohio State and Ryan Day came out, the reaction was just different. That happens when you win. And when you're the big dog on the block. And I feel like we are always saying some version of, if you just win, it takes care of everything. Everything is just so much easier. And it seems like in a lot of ways it's oversimplifying things, but that really is the bottom line. It's bottom line business, and everybody kind of understands that. But it really does, to me, come down to the lens that we view this all of these different things. Pick one of these kind of different gaffes or blunders or however you want to characterize it over the last couple of years, and they're all looked at differently if the wins are piled up in Nebraska's favor.
Yeah, and look, you get, like I said, the win equity is something that if you get it, it's great, and then you can actually start to freelance and do some stuff, and then you'd be like, oh, they're so innovative or whatever.
Right now, you're innovative instead of you being a honoring
a nuisance. Everything that we do now.
You're not a nuisance anymore. You're innovative.
Yeah, so it's so we'll see what happens, moving forward. Like I say, the focus needs to be just on, trying to get some wins and more wins and losses, and then go from there. And all this stuff kind of falls by the wayside. I think when you don't have it, people always try to, focus on this stuff to kind of take away from what you're trying to do in a positive way. And people are really impulsive with their thoughts. And so this is the day and time. I mean, you can't do anything right, but I guess they call it the cancel, society or whatever. And, everybody's looking to cancel everybody. So, you just got to make sure that you're kind of, doing your thing and with the utmost of the betterment of the whole picture and not be short-sighted. So we'll see, what happens. I don't think any, like I said, it's not even, online anymore. So I think it's one of the things that's it's a learning experience, and hopefully, we get more wins. So then we'll actually we're going to be the smart university versus like the nuisance and the dummies.
Right. And okay, we're going to shift gears a little bit from that because we're going to wrap it here with every week we end the show with our favorite segment called Put Them on Blast, where we basically put somebody on blast for something that they did or said.
Put them on blast.
Today I am going with Darren Rovell. Now, I tried to pull up what Darren Rovell's actual title is. He's basically like a sports business insider. The reason I couldn't pull it up because I forget that I actually have him blocked on Twitter because I don't even want to see what he's talking about. But I had somebody send me a tweet that a guy sends out a tweet that basically said that his dad passed away and that he didn't know what to do with his baseball cards. Okay. And then he attached a picture to it. And Rovell actually replied to that guy, somehow found his tweet of all the tweets out there, replied to that guy and said pretty much all junk.
I'm actually laughing.
So as if that's not bad enough, this dude doubled down. Rovell then replies after people are rightfully blasting Darren Rovell again for the latest stupid thing that he said. He then doubles down and replies and says, "Seriously, this is your take to be mad at me? I'm just trying to save him from wasting his time and money." I'm trying to figure out, why is it the only time that we ever talk about Darren Rovell? When was the last time you heard somebody say, "Man, you know what? That Darren Rovell came up with something great the other day. Like he's been doing something really cool, or he said something really positive." Like I feel like his role is to find some sort of weird trolly sports business angle to everything.
Yeah,
like it used to be a time where like he was really respected. Like it took a real turn, and maybe this is kind of like the Skip Baylessification of kind of sports media and what happened, where you just need to say like really crazy stuff. And obviously it worked for Skip. Skip gets paid NFL running back money. I don't know if you saw that recently.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
The 3 years, $24 million extension. He's getting paid more than Saquon Barkley per year, Skip Bayless is, which is crazy. But like maybe that's what it is. It's a trickle down effect of that. But Darren Rovell definitely has to go on blast for basically blasting this guy who's just trying to talk about his dad's baseball card collection.
Yeah, everything can't be built on, trying to, I think that, it's a big business now with the trading cards and the Jordan, rookie cards and stuff like that. They call it empathy. I'm not the most empathetic person, but he's, obviously way worse than me. And I think he's the guy that always tries to have that angle to get the notoriety because we're talking about him right now. That's what he likes. And so it's just, their niche, who they are. But there's sometimes that, there's got to be a line that you don't want to cross. Because I always look at it, you don't want to cross that line because someday, somehow, it could be you, right? In a different form, but it could be something that somebody passed away that's close to you. So he's just one of those guys, doesn't understand it, and he's he lives in the moment and he loves it, and he also lets you know the arrogance of him. When you make yourself look like an idiot, you can't apologize, but then you double down, right? Yeah, like remember we talked about a couple of weeks ago where I don't know who it was that said, "Oh, I'm just trying to have a conversation." No, you just want to make it okay for you to be an a-hole. And that's the way he is. And that's the way he, obviously reacted. So I think he enjoys it, loves it, and he thinks he's, special of it. But ultimately in the long term, being known for being a conscious a-hole is probably not going to work out the best for you in long term.
Yeah, I just want to know how he found the tweet. Like, how did he even get, like, this really is, I'm looking at it, like, it really is just a guy.
Yeah, somebody probably, like, somebody, I mean,
is that a famous guy?
Yeah, but sometimes that stuff goes viral, and then, he's probably, maybe he has notifications of trading cards, because I've seen a few of his things and what he does and tweets about. So maybe that's it, or maybe he got it sent to him like you did, and then
Maybe.
one thing leads to another, and he gets on there and takes time out of his day to kind of ruin somebody else's day. So it's a very unique perspective that he has on life and how to use social media. So
Yeah, but he's going to be that guy, though. You're right, though. You got to be careful with that, because that stuff comes back to you, and he will then complain that people are coming. Well, he did in this situation, right? Complain that people were coming after him. And you quick to do that and play the victim card, but didn't take 1 second to think that, maybe I shouldn't tell this guy that just lost his dad that he's wasting his money and time.
Yeah, look, he is who he is, and he's going to do what he's got to do. And ultimately, you'd like to think that with a lot of people out there, just not to give him any notoriety, but we have it that we're going to put people on blast. And so, who I'm going to put on blast is the New Orleans Saints organization. One, obviously, with the great Drew Brees. As the player retiring, I'm not a fan of Drew Brees as a person, but he retires. I'm putting him on blast for whatever reason, whatever pictures Taysom Hill has on, whether it's the coaches, the GMs, somebody to continue to pay this man like he's actually a quarterback, all the while that you brought a guy in, an established quarterback, whether you like him or not, Jameis Winston, who threw for over 5,000 yards a couple years ago, and he went, 40 touchdowns or 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, whatever. Whatever, however you want to like shake it up. He's a whether he's 20 or 22, he's better than Taysom Hill as far as you ranking the quarterbacks right now, right? You continue to give this guy, even though it's funny money contracts and it can be voidable after a year, you gave him a huge amount of money last year to play probably 10 or 15 plays a game, unless you're beating him pretty bad. And now, granted, he got to step in and play some when Drew Brees got hurt, but ultimately he's just like a slash on steroids, or modern day slash of Cordell Stewart back when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But then all the while, you've been saying that we want Jameis Winston back. We like Jameis Winston. He's a part of our future plans. We're in contract negotiations with him. And then as you're sitting at the table with the guy that actually could probably win you some football games and kind of continue along as being, a legitimate NFC South contender, you pay the guy that's actually going to only, be able to do small amount of things in the passing game, which Sean Payton is always going to do, is have the passing game. And you continue to give this guy some money. And he's already 3 or 4 years older than he should be at this point in his career. It's the craziest thing ever. And I'm putting him on blast because regardless of Bounty Gate, take that aside, as far as building a team, building a culture around what has happened with Katrina in New Orleans, you can't find dealing with the situation that they had to deal with ever since Sean Payton's been there, right? The lack of facilities, the lack of money into the obviously the NFL team, then deal with Katrina, deal with obviously the whole city, taking it on the chin, and then build a Super Bowl team out of it and a Super Bowl contender year in and year out. They're always competitive. To turn around and do something stupid like this, and you can't sell anybody with 2 eyes, a heartbeat, and any knowledge of football that Taysom Hill is that guy. Certainly not worth that contract, whether it's funny money or not, that he's getting versus even Jameis Winston or any other quarterback that can actually play the position of quarterback.
Yeah, it's really, even though, and you're right off top, it's funny money, right? But because they can void every year. But at the same time, like if I'm Taysom Hill, I'm like, okay, I got to bust my butt to see if I can come earn this money, and they're going to have to give me a shot at least. So like if you're another quarterback coming in, or if you're Jameis Winston hoping to re-sign or whatever, like it's just going to create a weird situation. Like I'm just not sure. And this is one of those too, when we talk about kind of some of the decisions that the Texans have made and other teams when it comes to front offices and stuff like that, and what it can do for a locker room. And I'm curious because like now we're in a transition period after Drew Brees, one of your all-time greats, not the all-time great in your franchise's history, retires. And now you got your chance to usher in a new era. And this is how you started off. Like I'm looking at this thing like a sinking ship if I'm one of the other star players on the team.
Yeah, you're looking at it like, I mean, and they see these guys, or see him every day. And granted, I'm not saying that he doesn't have a place in the NFL or he's not, legitimate player, because he's he's playing special teams, he's doing all the stuff, and he's, the extra stuff, and you appreciate that. All I'm saying is this the type of move that you want to make? Is this the type of, I guess, statue or that you want to set for guys that play, 15% or what, say like a Cam Jordan? If I'm him, I'm going back and asking, then you got, their defensive end that was second in the league in sacks, and he's not franchise. He's he's able to go, and he's, they have the tampering period today. So he's already, I've seen the Jets and the Giants are interested in him. Of course, the Saints are interested, but you're just taking care of Taysom Hill as if this is a guy that's guaranteed to win you 9 or 10 games. The team is set up.
Teams beating down the door to do that.
Exactly. And it's the funniest thing about it, because nobody else is going to really take the time and use him. Whereas, Sean Payton, those guys are trying to take the time and make him into something that he's not. And so it's really interesting to see how they went about their business, considering that you got one of the better defensive ends and sack guys in the league, and a guy that's kind of worked his way up through your program, and Trey Hendrickson sitting out there without a contract. But even then you turn around and give a guy a huge contract, even if it's funny money, it's still not a good look. And, it's one of those things that I had to put them on blast about it, considering all the stuff that they've done before.
Yeah, that's absolutely a well-deserved blast right there. But that's going to do it for us today. Subscribe to the podcast everywhere you can listen to them. Rate us and leave us a 5-star review. If you only leave 4, I am inclined to think you're a hater. Make sure you are checking out the other podcasts on the Hail Varsity Network, the Mind Your Own podcast, the Varsity Club, More to It, and the Hail Varsity Radio Show. Also, make sure you're checking out the Hail Varsity YouTube page. We have an email at straightupbreakdown@hailvarsity.com. And you can find us on Twitter at Greg Smith HB and at Foreman5644. We will catch you next time.
A Hurrdat Media Production.